really need to try to see if I can make a new one.
We are live.
If I could just find a few minutes in the day to do such things.
You can't find minutes. Minutes are like Bitcoin, all right? There's none to find anymore, okay?
Can you mine them?
Not anymore.
Oh, it's all been mined.
Well, there's still miners, but the people who...
No, I'm talking about like adults.
Yeah. But the people who are doing the transactions pay a fee to the miners because you have to have the mining to secure the transaction. It's a very old technology.
I don't know what.
You ready?
Yeah. You can do it. Hey,
okay.
Don't let me forget we need to do some commercials.
Okay.
Warning, the Catholic Man Show contains high levels of manliness. If you think you may be too weak to withstand the manliness represented in the following program, please do yourself a favor and stop listening now. If you choose to continue in spite of this warning, if at any time you feel yourself overcome by the manliness, stop immediately and consult your closest medical professional. And now, for the not-so-fair, faint, or frilly, we present The Catholic Man Show.
Sure is nice to hear that original intro.
Tradition.
It's about a 7-year tradition.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. When Dave and I first started this podcast, it was actually a radio show first, but we were involved. We were talking to some people, and it just so happened a guy that we knew the voiceover guy for WWE.
Which is awesome.
And so we were like, you know what?
Because we don't sound like that.
Do you think he would be, if we gave him a script, would he be able to read that for us? And he did.
Yeah. And they sent it to us.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Because I was just sitting here thinking, like, really the original warning was when we just used to say it on air.
Remember when we used to like tell people like, you don't want to listen to this show?
You probably shouldn't listen.
You probably shouldn't listen. It was a bold strategy for us.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
We'll see how it goes. Dave, I know you're on pins and needles here, wanting to know about the status of Juan's dog from last week.
I haven't been able to sleep. I've been losing sleep.
It looks like that your eyes are just, you have not been sleeping.
I've been having dreams about like finding dogs and
yes,
people.
But we found him or her. We found her. It took 24 hours, roughly, and then she escaped again.
Fool me once.
Shame on you.
Actually, I think this doesn't apply.
No.
I think it's backwards, actually. It's like, all right, you got out the first time, but you got out again? Like, look, you're asking for it, dog.
Yeah, well, the second time, she jumped up on, like we thought first time she went underneath the fence. She jumped up on the firewood and then jumped over the fence.
And she's a Boston Terrier, so
a little dog.
I can just picture her, she's sitting up there on top of that little wood pile, and she's like, freedom! And she jumps over the fence, and as she clears the peaks of the fence and finally has a view of freedom beyond and looks down and realizes there's not another wood pile on the other side of the fence. And it's
have like a 6-foot drop.
Right. Which when you're only like 6 inches tall, I don't know how tall she is. Maybe she's 8 inches tall.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I'll bet she landed on her face.
It's a big fall.
I'll bet it was face first into the ground.
But the dog is safe and in Juan's possession. Or the dog is in Juan's possession. So
I saw her this morning. She was doing fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, we've had a lot of people ask about the Catholic Man Show Camp Out. A couple things we need to talk about. Camp Out being one of them. When is it going to be? Who is it for? These kind of questions. it's the last weekend of September.
Mhm.
I think it's like what, the 28th, 29th, 30th,
I will pull up the dates here.
something like that. It's the last weekend of September. It's at Clear Creek Abbey, and it's for any Catholic man over the age of 21. However, we only take about 65. What are the dates?
The 28th, September 28th through October 1st.
Okay, there it was. I was right. Man, that was...
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well done.
But yeah, so we only take 65 guys, and here's the reason why: is because we organize all the food and the drink and like all the entertainment, so to speak, and it's a lot of logistics, and so we can only have so many people.
It's hard to feed that many people anyway.
Right. So it's kind of first, like the first people who have a shot at it are the patrons.
Mhm.
So
In the last couple of years, it's just like the patrons sell it out. So if you want to
Right.
come, you need to be a patron, really.
plus, then you get to support us, and it's free.
Yeah. It's a win-win.
It's free camp out. If you're flying in from out of town, last year I think we had 13 states represented. If you're flying into town and you need camping gear because you don't want to carry it on a plane, we got you covered. We have tents and sleeping bags, chairs, everything for you. So
It will be a small tent.
it will be a small tent,
But-
yes, but it's a tent.
Yeah, it is a tent.
We're also going to the Holy Land.
However, if you can bring your own tent, you should do that because we don't have unlimited tents.
No.
We don't have 65 tents.
Definitely not.
No. Anyway, we are going to the Holy Land.
I'm also going to buy a grill this year for the camp out, like a little Weber grill.
Okay.
So that way guys can grill their own like hamburgers at their liege.
They can liege on some burgers.
Yeah. So
Sweet.
yeah, but we're going to the Holy Land next year.
Very excited about this.
Couple weeks right after Easter, so it's Easter time. Like it's
Is it a couple weeks or is it like the week after?
I think it's a couple weeks.
It's a couple weeks? Okay.
So it's it's just gonna be amazing. I don't want to say who we're gonna have as a chaplain this year to go with us. It's not 100% confirmed, but it seems likely that we have
No, we're going the week, like a few days after Easter. So it's April 3rd through April 13th.
Maybe I was confused for the next
Easter.
year.
Easter is March 31st. So we will be arriving in the Holy Land during Easter week, like during the octave of Easter.
Yes.
So it'll be great. We'll be in the Holy Land for Divine Mercy Sunday.
Man.
It's going to be awesome.
So go to selectinternationaltours.com. You can sign up there and join us because it's gonna be. And we're only gonna take. So here's something that people ask as well: is we're only taking one bus.
Right.
A lot of people take a lot of buses to the Holy Land. A lot of people. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that because we want it to be an intimate. Like we want to like get to know you. We want to pray with you. We want to hang out with you. We want to eat with you. Like
Yeah.
Last year when we went to Ireland, like we like built friendships. You know, and we want that experience again.
Yeah. Absolutely. So sign up now.
SelectInternationalTours.com
/
Catholic Man Show.
Catholic Man Show. SelectInternationalTours.com / Catholic Man Show. Go and sign up.
It is available for like both couples or.
Yes. You know what? That's one thing we didn't do a good job of for the Ireland trip. Women can come. This is not exclusively for men.
That's right.
So
Bring the fam.
Anybody is welcome. We're going to the Holy Land, and
Yeah.
The Holy Land is for everyone. So
That's correct.
anybody could come. You should bring your wife.
Right.
You should bring your wife.
So
Or if you are a wife, you should bring your husband.
yes, there are women who listen to the Catholic Man Show, which I love.
I do too.
So I want to tell you this story
Okay.
that happened this last week.
Okay.
You know, it was the Solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Indeed.
And so I went to lunch with a priest friend.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, let's go hang out and eat a good lunch, a burger
Yeah.
on a Friday.
Let's have some meat.
Yeah. So we go up there and he's like, hey, why don't we sit up at the bar? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Great idea.
He's like-
This is why we're friends.
Yeah. And he's like, you want to order a beer? It's like during lunch. I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
It's to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's in his collar and everything. We were at the bar, and the bartender, she walks up and she's like, what do you guys want? And you're like, we're going to have a beer. It's like, oh, she kind of like looked, okay. And I was like, we're celebrating. She goes, oh, what are you guys celebrating? I was like, this is
Jesus, baby.
And we were like, we're celebrating the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And she like stopped and kind of like looked at us.
That is a weird thing. Like if
You're not Catholic.
you're not Catholic,
But here's what she said. She goes, so is it Easter? That's how far removed we are from like Christendom.
yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
just knew like Jesus and Easter. This is like the only holiday that I know associated with this.
That is a funny question because it's like, don't you know it's not Easter?
She does not.
Don't you know when Easter is? Like, remember, we
She does
had it
not.
just recently,
She doesn't.
and we did the whole Easter Bunny thing. Like,
She did not.
I mean, but it's like everybody. It's still like a national holiday, you know.
So is it Easter?
I cannot tell you the exact date of Memorial Day. I know we just had it. I don't know. I know it's like the Monday of whatever. Okay. I don't know when it is, but I know. It's like, oh, generally it's in the spring. I know we just had it. I remember. Okay. The same thing with like Labor Day.
Right. Well, that one's easy for you.
Well, it doesn't always land on my birthday, but sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But anyway, I still don't know. Like, I think it's also the Monday of something. Anyway, we had Easter. It just happened.
Right. We're just not in the world of Christendom. We're in
No.
the apostolic age is what
Indeed.
we are. in.
Indeed. Which sounds cool. Sounds cool.
But
Like, ooh, yeah.
Until you start
apostolic.
reading like what happened to all the apostles.
Right. They
all got
right.
almost all of them.
They all got sainted is what they did.
Yeah, they all got martyred.
Yeah.
Except for one.
Yeah. But he still got sainted.
Yes. But yeah, he
Just less violently.
was, the beloved. So
I know martyrdom is like awesome. And-
afterwards, after the process, you
right.
mean?
But I think like even if you if you accept it, and because there's a moment when you have to choose it. That is not the cool moment. Okay, that's the horrible moment where you have to choose willingly a terrible death, maybe an unknown terrible death. Right. That's a terrible moment.
Can you imagine getting filleted?
No, dude. No. No, I cannot.
No.
But I feel like once you like,
Embrace it.
once you be like, you choose it.
Or like getting burned. Fire is so hot.
So hot. Has anyone here been totally engulfed in fire?
I mean, it's gotta be so hot.
But I feel like once you've been like, yes, and you like resolve yourself, then you're like, here I come, Jesus. Open the gates. I'm coming in. I may be coming in hot.
Smoking.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles. Who without a Minahan, we have nobody else.
Oh yeah, I didn't even say that.
There's no one else here.
My family.
I mean, in the room.
Yeah.
Do not give me the guardian angel bit, okay? I know the guardian angels. I don't know though.
They're actually
I
not
don't know if
here.
you can say that they're in the room.
Right.
And is like if you can. Is an
I
angel,
almost did an episode on.
Is an angel ever anywhere? It's like.
Well, yes, in front of the beatific vision.
Yeah, but its location is like.
Yeah, I almost did an episode
kind of like relative to its thought. Where is it thinking about? It doesn't have a body. It's not
It's
physical,
intellect,
so
right.
it's not ever in a place because it got no place.
That's right.
It has no placehood.
But it does have personhood.
It does have personhood.
I almost was going to do an episode on guardian angels this week, but I thought, you know what? I don't have enough time to really go
You know who does? Guardian angels.
Guardian angels.
They have a lot of time.
All of it.
Yeah, they do have all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, apostolic age. That's the time that we are in.
So that's important to know because it sheds light on our universal vocations. Not that in the age of Christendom, That's the college. Christendom.
There it is.
Yeah. You're not called to evangelization. You're always called to evangelize.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
easier.
It's a little. Well, it's also just different. You're called to live the faith fully, whereas in an apostolic age, you're still called to live it fully, but you're called to, evangelize more. I mean, there's a heavier focus on the evangelization as opposed to just the feasting and the living.
I like that part.
I do like the feasting.
Yeah. With chocolate chip cookies.
With chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking that. You actually read my mind.
Oh man. Okay. Hey, so today I thought we'd do something a little different for the Catholic Man Show. I don't know if we've ever done this before or not. We've been doing this for 7 years. I can barely remember what I was wearing yesterday.
Every now and then, I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea for a show topic," and then I'll go and look, and it's like,
We already did that.
we've done that twice,
Right.
sort of.
So, for this episode, I decided to pull some quotes from different saints.
Okay.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the saint first, like who the saint is, to kind of give it a little bit of a context,
Okay.
and then mention the quote,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of riff off of the quote and see if we have any thoughts on it.
Catholic Opinions by Adam and David.
Yes.
Here's what I think.
Here's what I think.
Here's what I think about that.
Yeah.
About these words. This is what I think about it.
So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Most of these saints, or all the saints that I pulled from, are from the medieval time period.
Okay.
First one I pulled was Saint Catherine of Siena.
Oh, I like her.
I'm a big fan of her. She's a third.
Before we go on, I was
Yes.
talking to a priest recently.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because he's like, "Yeah, I don't like Saint Therese."
Of Lisieux?
Yeah.
Why?
He's like, "I just don't like her." It was so funny. He's like, "I know everybody likes her, and that's fine. I'm happy that you like her, but her spirituality, it doesn't work for me. And when I read her, it's like, God, she's being so silly." Yeah, it was just like his temperament just
They just
does
don't
not
jive.
line up with. I think Saint Therese is too happy for him,
Yeah.
and
He's more melancholic.
he's more of like, no, that's not. I don't feel good about this. Okay, I'm not like, yay, suffering. He's like, no, I'm willing to be redeemed by it, but I'm not gonna be you cannot make me happy about this. It was just so funny, and I'm putting my own words in his mouth a little bit, but
Sure.
It was just caught me off guard. I don't like Saint Therese. And he's like, and I don't have to, okay? I have love for her, but I don't have to like her, okay?
Right.
She's not my favorite person,
Well, I mean, there's
Yeah, and it was just what? Anyway.
there's gonna be people in heaven that you don't like. You're gonna love.
Well, no, I think you will like them when you get there. There's going to be people that you didn't like.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you didn't like.
There was a time
Mm-hmm.
on this earth when you didn't like them. When you get there, you'd be like, you know what? You're not that bad of a guy. You are not that bad. You stop doing that really annoying thing.
You've been perfected, and
Right.
so
And so that makes a big difference for me.
yeah,
You used to smack your lips all the time,
didn't like that.
and it really annoyed me.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna talk about. Here's the first one. We're gonna talk about Saint Catherine of Siena, Third Order Dominican mystic activist. She's the author of some great influence of Italian literature during her time.
Yeah.
And she's also a doctor of the church,
Yes.
big time. Here's a funny story about her. So about her body.
Okay.
After she died,
Yeah.
they took her to Rome because she was, super holy. There was a lot of miracles that were happening.
Uh-huh.
And they were wanting to take some of her body back to Siena. And they knew they couldn't take the whole body back because the Roman guards wouldn't probably let her because they're under persecution, I think, is my understanding.
Oh.
So they're like, okay, well, we'll just bring her head back to Siena, right? And so they brought her head back, and they put her head in a bag.
It's just weird.
I know
Okay.
it is. Catholic, yeah, we're weird. Catholics
I,
are weird.
I get it, and I like relics, and
Yeah.
it's oh yeah, we have her heart here. It's in this
Right.
box. It's that's awesome. I prayed before her heart, but it's somebody had to cut her head off.
Yeah, I know. It's really weird. So they put the
Is there a ecclesial decapitator? Is there I am the I perform the decollation?
I don't know. So they put the body, they put the head in a bag, and they're getting out to go to Siena, and a Roman guard stops them, and they
Okay.
get really nervous because
Yeah.
they're not supposed to be doing this or whatever. And so they pray to her really quick, and they
They hold up the bag. Hey, Catherine,
yeah.
wake up! I need your help.
Yeah. So the guard opens it up, and it is rose petals in the bag.
Which is cool, but then you're like, crap. Where'd the head go? Then they turn back into a head when they
Yeah.
got further down the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
Well, that's good
Isn't that awesome?
because the rose petals is like at the moment good,
Right.
but
But
I did not want to bring a bag of rose. I actually
it has a whole new meaning of losing one's head.
yes, right. I could go get a bag of rose petals. I don't need
But if the guard would have seen
a head.
a head, they would have been
Yeah, I mean, definitely there would have been some detaining.
right.
Okay, you know, it's
Or
like,
detachment even.
yeah. I mean, but
So anyway, also
they're gonna be interrogated.
Also,
Why
she's-
do you have a head in this
right.
bag?
So she's also known to for criticizing the Pope,
Yeah.
right? And I always get frustrated with people who use her as an example
Of why they can
why they can criticize. It's like, bro,
lambast him.
she was a mystic. She
Well, okay,
like,
but that actually doesn't matter. Okay, it's not like only mystics are allowed to criticize
I
the
know,
Pope.
but like her level of holiness is obvious. It is very clearly, like her virtue is very high. Like she lives a virtuous life.
Right. Well, so you have to distinguish a couple things. What she didn't do was go around backbiting the Pope. She didn't, like gossip about the Pope.
Right.
She did it in charity, the right way, to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she followed the order of things.
That Jesus set up.
Right, where you would go and talk to the person privately.
Bring
If
them.
that doesn't work, bring some
Yeah.
witnesses with you. If that doesn't work, then you take it to the church. It becomes more of a public matter at that point. And she did all those things. She was not doing when people are using her as an example of why they're allowed to criticize the Pope. It's like, yeah, but you're just talking to me.
Right.
I'm not the Pope,
Right.
And also, who are you? You don't have she had a platform. So she had a platform from which to speak, right? People knew who she was.
Yeah.
She,
I mean, they have a Twitter platform.
That's true. That's true.
So-
And you know what? To be fair, some people could use their Twitter platform to do. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there with a platform big enough where they could kind of use a comparison.
Anyway,
But
it just
you know,
bothers me.
I agree. It bothers me too. I just wanted to.
Throw that out there.
Yeah.
She's the patron saint of nurses, journalists, and the media. So we
Okay.
need to be praying to her a lot more.
Yeah. Where is her head now?
I think still Siena. I don't know that for sure, but I think so. Also, a really good book by on
gonna have to look
on,
it up.
on her is from Father Paul Murray, who we've met,
Yeah.
Dominican. He wrote a book on her, Saint Catherine of Siena, mystic of fire and preacher of freedom.
I like all the mystics.
Yes.
I'm a mystic fan.
So anyway, so let me read you this quote and we'll get your thoughts.
Okay.
The devil invites men to the water of death, that is, to that which he has, and blinding them with the pleasures and conditions of the world. He catches them with the hook of pleasure under the pretense of good, because in no other way could he catch them, for they would not allow themselves to be caught if they saw that no good or pleasure to themselves were to be obtained thereby.
Yeah, I like that. I like how she uses water in the beginning, which is traditionally a symbol of death.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's exactly what he does. Another guy who talks a lot about this is Jesuit guy, Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Got it. Saint Ignatius of Loyola. He talks a lot about this in his rules about the mechanics of the demons. Especially in discerning of spirits, where how for someone who is on the right path, the devil will prod and chide and poke at you. But for someone who's not on the right path, will allure you and make everything real comfortable and offer you all of these nice, pleasurable things to keep you where you are, right? Because the devil has nothing to offer.
Right.
All he can do is take good things and twist them. I mean, it's like in the Garden of Eden. Right? taking a good and presenting it in a disordered way.
Right. So when we get back, we're going to keep going, talking about different quotes from saints. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Talking about a quote from St. Catherine of Siena. She's talking about how the devil hooks men for pleasure, to bring them down. I see this a lot also in people who, the intentions are good, right? And I think even C.S. Lewis talks about this in Screwtape Letters. This whole, trying to convince people to do good things for the wrong reason, right? So
yeah.
I see a lot of guys who will.
Yeah, he talks about it really well in that book.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh well, I'm gonna go do this for Jesus, so to speak. I'm gonna go speak, or I'm gonna go, build up a ministry or whatever, and then you see that this ministry actually is their demise, the beginning of their demise.
Yeah, because it's pride. They let
Right.
They start with good intentions. Another book that's really good about that is The Soul of the Apostolate.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which I think we've talked about.
We've talked about it, but it's exactly about that. How you need to keep your prayer life and stay keep things ordered.
Right.
It's a great book,
Mm-hmm.
Soul of the Apostolate.
But yeah, I mean, I
cannot remember the author right now.
Yeah, I can't either. Dom, no.
So, yeah, I think it's something French.
Yeah, man, I can't remember it either.
But just Google it.
Sherard.
All right.
Charard.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yes.
Because it sounds.
Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, I
sounds
thought
like
that
something.
was,
Yeah. Anyway,
I thought some good insight from Catherine of Siena here of how.
Shocker that she has some good insight.
Right.
Who knew?
So, anything else you want to add to that one, or you want to go on?
No, I like it though.
Okay, the next one is Saint Anthony of Padua.
Okay. More commonly just called Saint Anthony.
Right, and the finder of keys.
Right, and it's Padua.
Oh yeah, I said Padua.
Padua is
our buddy,
our other friend. Yeah.
Yeah, who we've had on the show.
We'll have to tell him that.
I said it's Saint Anthony of Padua.
You know what? He should have named his son Anthony. That would have been hilarious.
That would have been hilarious. But so Saint Anthony was a Franciscan friar and priest. He's noted by his contemporaries for powerful preaching. He had incredible knowledge of the Scripture and undying love and devotion to the poor. Fun fact about Saint Anthony: one of, if not the, fastest canonizations in the Church.
Really?
Less than 1 year after his death.
Wow.
Which is very much unheard of.
No kidding.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
He also he went to go he was really well known for being a strong preacher, right, and really proclaiming the word of God. So he went and he saw some heretics, in a city that was talking something about the Trinity wrong, which is easy to do.
Yeah.
But so he went over there to go preach to them, and they would not listen to him. And they were basically say, get out of the city. So he went down to the shoreline and started preaching, and it ended up all the fish would come up. It was coming up to the shoreline to hear him preach, so to speak. And it was just a ton of fish. And of course the city's what's going on? So they came down to listen, to figure out what's going on. And he said something like, let's see, I think I actually wrote it down. He charged them with the fact that the fish were more receptive to his message than the heretics of the church. And then at that point, the people started listening to his message.
Sweet.
That's a pretty epic story.
It is epic. There's a lot of stories like this about the saints, especially some of the older saints, from the 300-400s, that are a little bit legendary.
Right.
And
Sure.
it's is it true or not? It doesn't matter. Because with a legend, which I'm not saying that that's in this case. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. There are certainly some stories about certain saints that are a little just too fantastic. And, the point is not that, we have to believe that this saint really did this thing, right? Because that's not at all what the church says. But the point behind those stories is the message, right? That, what is the point of the story, right?
Yeah, at least in some
in
instances.
some of those instances. Some of them, I think that
it is very literal.
Yeah, that really did happen, and it is a miracle, and not that you.
It's not like Jesus, like the miracle of feeding the 5,000 was the sharing aspect.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to believe the miracles about the saints to get into heaven. That's not
Right.
That's not required, but I think
I recommend it.
having a receptive attitude towards the miraculous events that have taken place,
right,
puts your mind in the right frame.
Right. I mean, you don't need a paint gun to paint your house.
You don't.
But I recommend it.
I also recommend it.
But yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. He, how like much of a gut you have to say I'm just gonna go down here and just start preaching to nobody.
Yeah.
And not know what's gonna happen. Maybe he did. Maybe he actually knew. I don't know. But
he also had some very nice books. St. Anthony of Padua.
Yes.
Like some prayer books.
Yes.
There was a monk in his order who was going to leave, and he did, and he stole Anthony's books because he thought he could sell them for a lot of money. And St. Anthony realized they were gone and just prayed.
And then he came back
and the guy, he came back and became a good monk. Returned his books.
That's why he's the patron saint of lost
things. Right.
Right. So he said,
which I kind of wonder if St. Anthony ever gets tired of look, I realize you've lost your keys again.
Right.
But I can also pray for you for other things.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that are more important to your eternal salvation than whether or not you find, the thing, this little tiny thing that you lost. The thing is, he's perfectly inflamed with charity, so he's happy to help in all the things that we need. I just wonder about the saints sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes they end up getting, becoming the patron of a kind of obscure thing, and wonder how they feel about that.
Well, hopefully we can find out someday.
Yeah.
So here's his quote. He's talking about 3 things that are required for the holy life.
Okay.
He said, in the excellence of a holy life, these 3 things are required. That it be constant in itself,
okay,
that it contemplate God, and that it illuminates its neighbor.
Okay.
So he says, the 3 things for the holy life is that it's constant.
That your life is constant, or
that
you pursue the holiness constantly.
Constantly. That you contemplate God,
mm-hmm,
obviously, because we're made for contemplation. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that you illuminate your neighbor.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that?
They're more theoretical than I was expecting.
Mm.
I agree with them. I just I was having to think about them for a second. I mean, the illuminating your neighbor. Well, how do you put that into practice? It's
right. Well, and I would imagine him being, having undying love for the poor.
Yeah.
Would probably.
Yeah, it's I think that at the end of the day, you're going to say, well, setting a good example, right, and showing the right way is the way you're illuminating your neighbor.
Right.
Sometimes you have to call them a heretic, I guess.
And you go preach to the fish.
Right.
I think the second 2 everybody kind of probably could have guessed, right? You contemplate God.
Yeah.
That has to be one, and you have to love your neighbor because those are the first 2 commandments, right?
Uh-huh.
But the staying constant, I think, is something that we don't maybe think about enough because our emotions come and go, highs and lows in prayer life.
Yeah.
In your spiritual life in general, but we must remain constant.
Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part.
Right.
Because if you're remaining constant, the other 2 kind of happen automatically. If you're pursuing holiness constantly, well, then you're going to be contemplating God and illuminating your neighbor.
Yeah. Great book on St. Anthony if you want to learn more about him. Is St. Anthony, the wonder worker of I was going to say Padua again.
Padua. There's also a...
Thank you.
So we've talked about... what's the saint stories?
Glory stories.
Glory stories before. There's also another podcast out there called Saint Stories or Saints Alive, the Saints Alive podcast.
Okay.
It's very similar. Great audio production.
Mm-hmm.
Really great for kids. But the thing is, like, I also like listening to them.
Sure.
Just because they're very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Saints Alive is what it's called. Recommend. They've got I don't know how many they have, but I'd say at least 10 to 15 out there that, you know, just on a podcast you can go
check them out.
check them out.
Cool. Okay, so the next one we're gonna
They have St. Anthony. That's why I wanted to say that.
Okay, good. I
Yeah.
wondered where.
Well, that's the connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Next one we're gonna talk about is Saint Bernard of Clairvaux.
Okay.
He's the abbot mystic. He's the co-founder of the Knights Templar. Did you know this? I did not know that.
I did not know that.
No. And he was one of the major leaders of the Reformation of the Benedictine order because he brought in the Cistercian order.
One of the greatest Marian saints.
Yes, he was canonized only 21 years after his death.
Also pretty soon.
Very soon. Also, he is a
It's
doctor
not,
of the church.
It's not 1 year.
Less than.
Not less than a year.
Right. But he's also a patron saint of beekeepers. Did you know this?
I did.
Okay. Good. Being a
I-
beekeeper yourself.
Yes.
And candle makers.
Uh-huh.
A really...
Also, the other one is Saint Valentine. Also a patron saint of beekeepers. Someday, when we have to divide our hive, we will have in the order of Clear Creek Monastery, all of their hives are named after an abbey somewhere.
Okay.
So we're going to have Saint Valentine's Abbey and Saint Bernard of Clairvaux.
Nice.
And I think there's even another one. I think there's another one out there too for beekeepers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a quote. Actually, I want to tell a story about St. Bernard that's actually hilarious in regards to him talking to a heretic.
Okay.
So on the other side of the break, we'll talk about that. And then his quote that I want to talk about is about being humbled when you're honored.
Nice. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm drinking coffee. Adam is drinking a pineapple sparkling water.
I did drink it. It's gone now.
It looks like it was probably pretty good.
It was good. I liked it. Yeah. So
We're talking about some quotes from saints today.
Yeah.
You were mentioning Bernard of Clairvaux.
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose of my thought process on this episode was to talk about the quote, these different quotes to have an opportunity, but then also to just bring about the stories of the saints, to potentially, maybe you can learn more about them and have a deeper
The saints
devotion
are
to
awesome.
them.
They're awesome.
Right.
And they have the best stories.
Right.
They do. They have the best stories.
Yeah. So Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, he had a conflict with a guy named Peter Abelard. Okay, Peter was like a heretic. He's talking about the Trinity again, talking about the Trinity wrong, in a wrong way. It had heretical writings on the Trinity. And so,
Maybe with the best intentions. I don't know.
yeah, we can give him that.
We can in charity.
Yeah. So Bernard met with him and told him he was wrong.
Okay.
And then Peter apologized and said, like, okay.
Okay, see? So it sounds like he was a well-intentioned guy.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. He apologized and said, like, I will not do this any longer. And then as soon as St. Bernard left, he totally reneged the deal and said, like, oh, no, I'm definitely right. So he basically just lied to St. Bernard.
So he's a coward.
So he's a coward.
At least he behaved cowardly.
In that moment. And so at that point, St. Bernard, like, denounced him in front of the Pope and the cardinals once he heard that he was he reneged on the deal, right? And so then Peter was like trying to have a public debate with him and was very widely publicized. He was like trying.
This sounds like a bad idea for Peter.
He said he's like, I want to debate him on this topic, and Bernard was like, no, I don't. I'm not going to do this again with this guy. I've already tried to talk to him. I don't trust him. I'm not going to do it. And Peter just kept saying, I want, like, just making it a big deal. I want to debate him. And then finally the Archbishop went to St. Bernard and was like, hey, let's have this debate.
Yeah.
And then in obedience,
Crush him.
yeah, Bernard was like, okay, I'll do it. Bernard goes first. He has an opening statement, and Peter retires from the debate without even attempting to say a single thing or rebut his opening statement.
So he is a coward. And he was publicizing it,
Hoping that he wasn't going to... They called this bluff.
Yeah.
They called old Peter's bluff.
Well, I hope he's in heaven.
Yeah, me too. So here's the quote, and this kind of that story kind of ties into this quote, right? So he's talking about the virtue of being humbled when honored.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "It is no great perfection to be humble when you are despised."
Yeah.
That makes sense. But it is a great and rare virtue to preserve humility in the midst of honors.
Yeah. It is tricky because if you've done something honorable, it's not humble to deny
To deny what you did. No.
to deny the honorable thing, right? That's false humility.
Right.
Just like if I tell you I'm a 6'2" Polish, Irish American, so just am. That's just what I am.
Right.
And so acknowledging the things that the gifts that you have, is not false. It's not anything against humility.
Right.
As long as you do it, you have to have the recognition about where do those gifts come from.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't make myself 6'2",
Right.
or I didn't make myself Polish and Irish.
Or even this good looking.
You're right.
Yeah.
I just am this good looking. It's like just the way it is. So to recognize, when being honored, recognize that yes, I have done something worth honor, is not unhumble. It's not against humility.
Use take 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the word is there. Anyway, you have to have that recognition, that attitude about, well, these gifts were given to me, and I owe all of the credit to the Lord, right?
I think a lot of it is kind of what you were just saying. Is like you pivot, and this is what you pray with the litany of humility, right? That others may become holier than I, provided that I become as holy as I should.
Mm-hmm.
You pivot from the light that's on you and share it or illuminate others. So like it's about my team, or it's about the people who we've all got here together.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have done this without X, Y, or Z. And
Yeah.
I think that's always a good.
Take St. Paul's words, but it's no longer me, but don't see me, but see Christ who lives within me, right?
Right. There's a really great, if you're interested in St. Bernard of Clairvaux and his writings, which are very good.
We're recording this on the Feast of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and so.
There's a press out there, and I don't know how to pronounce that first word. Do you?
No. Iterna?
Eterna.
Yeah,
Eterna Press.
Eterna Press, yeah.
They have basically compiled all these, all of the open domain, public domain writings of most of the saints, and compiled them into books and make them very affordable. They're not like leather bound or anything like that, but they're just paperback books. But they're very affordable, and so I think his 4 books, they combine it into one book, and I think it's like $30.
Oh, sweet.
So if you're looking to read the saints, if you go to their Eterna Press, Eterna Press, I have a lot of their books.
Nice.
Just because it's good to have as a resource.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the next one I wanted to talk about was St. John Damicus.
Okay.
Have you?
I know him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know him very well.
So he's a monk and a priest, and he's another doctor of the church. In the East, so he's a Eastern Catholic. So in the East, he's known for his defense of icons and against Muslims.
Do you have a defense against Muslims? I guess you defend against Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then in the West, he's known as the Doctor of the Assumption due to his writings on the Assumption of Mary. Now remember, he's like back in the 600s.
Mm.
So he's writing about the Assumption of Mary in the 600s.
Way before it was cool.
And way before the church declared it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. So one of the stories about him is that he's one of the first known Christians to criticize Islam, to be a critic of Islam, and he told the Muslims.
Could that be because like Islam was a new religion around that time?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before then there was no Islam. I mean, I don't know when it came, but I think it was in like around the 600s.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm not a.
But I'm not a.
Yeah, scholar. Of
Look,
that.
don't send me emails, okay?
So John was talking. He told the Muslims, which the Muslims already knew this, but he said, that Moses received the Torah from God in the presence of the Israelites, right? And so he was questioning, like, well, you're saying that Muhammad received the Quran from God, and he was kind of making these parallels, like, shouldn't he have received it like in front of his people, like Moses, like, because he kind of paralleled himself to Moses, Muhammad did. And so John claims that the Muslims answered that Muhammad received the Quran in his sleep, in which John
did they? Do they?
This is just the story.
Do they?
I don't know if
they say that today?
I don't know if they say that today. But this is just the story.
This is the story. Okay.
And that John replies in a joking manner that you're spinning my dreams. And so anyway, I just thought it was funny that he's, critiquing the Muslims on this aspect, and then when they reply, they're like, "Yeah, this is being ridiculous."
Uh-huh.
He basically jokes back at them.
Don't you wish there are like certain moments in history or certain stories? It's like, man, don't you wish that guy had a Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd rock a Twitter account,
So here's his quote. And he's talking about being reminded of Christ's death by an image of it, which makes sense because he, defended icons. He defended holy images.
Okay.
He says, often, doubtless, when we have not the Lord's passion in mind and see the image of Christ's crucifixion, his saving passion is brought back to remembrance. And we fall down and worship not the material, but that which is imaged. Just as we do not worship the material of which the Gospels are made, nor the material of the cross, but that which these typify.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally true. And this is something the Protestants get wrong about Catholicism all the time. They'll see people kneeling before a statue, and they think that we're worshiping this statue as if we think, like, this piece of fashioned rock,
right,
or plastic or whatever it is, has any value at all. It doesn't, other than to lift our minds to the reality that it represents.
Which they understand whenever they, put out the nativity set during Christmas.
Yeah, but they get wrapped around the axle, and they'll quote scripture about graven images, and it's like, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, and that's not what we're doing.
That's not what we're doing. And it's a very human thing to do, because having those images, everybody does it. Go into anybody's house, anybody who's a critic of, having statues or whatever, I'll bet you have a picture of your dead grandma in your house somewhere. Why do you have that? Oh, to remember her by. That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's the same thing, and that's good. You should have a picture of her, right? And so having images of the saints, of our family in heaven,
that lifts our minds to God.
Right, exactly.
It's good and holy thing.
It's a good and holy thing.
We're out of time on Catholic Radio. Go check us out on the podcast, thecatholicmanshow.com. Subscribe to our podcast. We have over 300 episodes. Barking up 400 episodes, I think, if I remember correctly. We're going to continue this conversation. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about there?
I also think it's important. It brings up the importance of having good art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's just like so much terrible art, and if you're one of the people out there producing terrible art, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Please stop.
Please stop right now. Stop what you're doing, and do something better.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
God is calling you to greatness. this may not be it.
Like, and I don't think the argument. Some people might say, "Oh, well, it's for children," as if like children aren't smart enough, or like they don't appreciate a beautiful picture, because they do. It drives me crazy. It's been hard. We try to find good children's books with beautiful art, because it is really important. The artwork that is in a children's book is
transcendentals are important.
It's super important because often the language of the story, the nuances of some of these stories, they don't fully comprehend. So like the beautiful artwork helps them and teaches them about the story in a new way, in a better way. More so, it helps elevate them into the story better. And we have some books we have found some that are really, really great, but it's hard to find. And you like get these children's books, and it's like, I am probably the worst artist
of all the artists.
It is amazing
how bad
I am, and I will try. Okay, and that makes it even worse. That I tried so hard,
and this is the outcome.
That's it. But some of these these are like fancy stick figures in here, and it's just, the kids don't want to see that.
No.
Anyway, good art is what we need, and it's important because beautiful art helps elevate the mind better.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Okay, next one is Saint Anselm of Canterbury.
Anselm?
What did I say?
Anselm, yeah.
Yeah.
I like him.
Sorry.
We did a whole episode on quotes from him one time, I think. Didn't we?
Did?
A long time ago.
Wow.
Well, maybe it wasn't just on quotes from him, but it was like I remember like there was one episode we did where, man, we were really nailing Anselm that day, and it was like, God, this guy has got it going on.
He was the one that the ontological argument that like developed the ontological argument, didn't he?
Yes, that could be it.
Yeah, so he was a Benedictine monk, an abbot, a philosopher, a theologian. He was exiled twice by English kings.
Nice.
Yeah, but he was called like the most luminous and penetrating intellect between Saint Augustine and Saint Thomas Aquinas.
It's pretty great.
Pretty heavy.
I'm telling you, like, he has some works that are amazing.
Yeah, he had a very strong understanding of Aristotelian
very good
logic.
philosopher.
Yeah, and was a big fan of Boethius, Saint Boethius.
I don't know Boethius.
Consolation of philosophy.
Sorry.
Oh.
I don't know everything. But he's got an awesome name.
Yeah. He's a patron saint of theologians and philosophers. Here's something.
How did Boethius ever die out of popularity? That is an amazing name. Like, if
would you call him Bo?
Let me just tell you this.
Okay.
You have to fight one of two people. The only thing you can know about them is their name. Okay?
Yeah.
You're gonna fight John or Boethius. Who are you? It's like, John, you don't know anything about John.
Right. Could be a great guy.
But you're crazy if you think I'm picking Boethius. There's no way I'm fighting Boethius. I'm definitely fighting John. Because I think I might have a shot against John.
Okay, so here's what he said. He said, everyone who sins ought to pay back the honor of which he has robbed God.
Wait, say that again.
Everyone who sins ought to pay back the honor of which he has robbed God.
Okay.
And this is the satisfaction of every sinner. Oh, and this is the satisfaction which every sinner owes to God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is like also about humility. When you lack humility, basically what you're doing is you're seeking to take for yourself the honors which are due to God.
Right.
And sin has a roundabout way of doing that all the time.
Sin is constantly the I'm not doing thy will be done, but my will be done.
Right, but you're not. I think in most cases the sinner is not thinking I am going to take these honors. It's
right.
about some appetite, right? But you are ultimately taking honor for yourself by pridefully choosing your own will over his.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Putting yourself, what you're doing is you're putting yourself above his will for your life.
That's right. Next one, Albertus Magnus,
Okay.
also known as St. Albert the Great.
Nice.
Magnus is one that we were really considering as John's middle name.
Uh-huh. Were you?
Yeah, John Magnus.
Oh,
Kind of sounds cool.
it does.
I was pushing for it more, I think, than Lady Haley.
I also think the word Leonidas is like that's a strong
that's a
name.
strong
I mean,
name.
it's not a Christian name,
No.
but it sounds so awesome.
Yeah.
Even without the movie 300, it still
Still sounds awesome.
sounds awesome.
So he was a German Dominican friar, philosopher, scientist, bishop, doctor of the church.
Uh-huh.
St. Albert the Great. He's I think he's probably known. If it wasn't for St. Thomas Aquinas, he would be the guy that everybody talks about
Oh, interesting.
because he was the teacher
Did he have a Summa?
of St. Thomas Aquinas. He apparently he helped. What do you call that? Whenever you help type it out, didact or what do you call
Dictate?
dictate? Yeah.
I mean, one person dictates and the other person writes.
yeah. So he was he was the right.
He was doing the writing, the
I think
dictating. I'm sure there's a word for that too.
Yeah.
But words are hard.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so he also he fleshes out the idea of Aristotle. He was the first one to kind of flesh out the ideas of Aristotle and the thoughts of friendship, and kind of put the Christian understanding of Aristotle.
Interesting.
Yeah, which Thomas
So
Aquinas
that could be
picked up.
where Aquinas gets his affinity.
Well, a lot of what
Aristotle.
Aquinas picks up on, and in his Summa it was taught to him by Saint Albert the Great.
Nice.
Interestingly, also Dante puts Saint Albert the Great in the heaven of the sun, which is the fourth realm. It's the fourth sphere.
I'm still very, 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 very slowly reading Purgatorio.
Oh, are you?
So I have not even broached Paradiso yet.
I have not either. But the heaven of the sun is for the wise. That sphere is for the wise.
Ooh, that's where I'm gonna go. I
No,
like it.
No, I'm gonna do whatever the sphere of the humble.
Do they have donuts? Do they have donuts there?
They have chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah.
That's me. Yeah. So anyway, Dante puts him in the sphere of heaven for the people of wisdom.
Nice.
So here's what he says. He says, "You should offer myrrh to the Lord by the hardness of our lives, that as he suffered in the body many hardships for our sake, so we also should suffer some inconveniences for his sake."
Totally.
So he's just taught, that we need to live ascetic lives.
Yeah. It's one thing I've been like really putting more emphasis in my own life lately is, and this is because of Exodus 90 has kind of been encouraging it. And it's so good having a rule of life. When do I eat? What do I eat? And just like, it's not hard and fast, like I don't have sweets unless there's a reason to, like, oh, we're having dessert. Okay, then let's have dessert. Like if we have people over, company, let's all have dessert, right? It's not like, oh, I only have dessert on Sundays. It's
Right.
like, no. But I'm not just going to go have dessert because like,
Dude, I had a whole bag of saltwater taffy that I just plowed through.
yeah. You know what? I could totally, saltwater taffy, not my jam.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. It's one of my favorites.
It's because it's not sweet. It's like,
Oh, yeah, it is.
sometimes, kind of, but it takes so long to eat. I don't know. It's just some saltwater taffy is better than others.
True. Not all are the
It's
same.
not all the same.
I
But
agree with that.
I'd rather have something else. Chocolate.
Fair enough. I think that, again, the importance of this is that, Christ gave everything to you.
Yeah.
And so it's appropriate to offer back to him.
Yeah. But the rule of life is so important. Like, this is why all religious orders, they have rules.
Mm-hmm.
They have rules of life that they live by about that govern these things. And so there's times where it's like, oh, I would like to eat something or whatever. And it's like, no. It's great. This is one of those opportunities where I get to offer it up.
Mm-hmm.
And without that rule, I would have so much less to offer.
Right. I agree.
So, and the thing about chocolate chip cookies even is
gonna-
that the next day, you never look back and be like, oh, I'm so glad I ate that cookie. Like dessert or whatever. It's like now, like in retrospect, are you glad? With some exceptions, there are sometimes like that cake
Was
or that
delicious.
fill in the blank
Right.
was so good.
Right.
But most of the time
I'm
you're
having
like,
peach cobbler today.
it's like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
cobbler.
Totally underrated. Always slides underneath the radar.
You know, dude, we have a pear tree.
Mm-hmm.
This is not related, I guess, but it's like over 1,000 pears on it right now.
Are you gonna make a cobbler?
I think.
We should.
I'm not gonna make one,
Right.
but I'm gonna outsource it.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is Hugh of St. Victor.
Hugh of St. Victor.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, I don't think he's canonized saint, but he was a theologian and a writer on a lot of mystical theology.
Okay.
He was very heavily influenced by St. Augustine, and he was really well known for standing up for beautiful art.
Okay.
And
I like him.
He avoided a lot of the controversial and like academic discussions, and was trying to live like the importance of the Christian life in a practical manner. So he kind of was not in the academia world, but he was like, how do we live the Christian life?
We need people like that too. We
Yes.
need
need
both.
both.
We need both.
We need both. So here's what he says. He says, it is better to endure some want for God's sake than to abound in plenty. For the want that is born for God's begets humility, the source of all good. Whereas abundance produces pride, the root of all evils.
I like it. I agree.
Um,
It is better to endure want than to live in abundance. But there's a tendency, right? Abundance
extremes is this what you're going?
abundance doesn't necessarily, like, you can have abundance and stay and keep humility. It's just very hard.
Sure. I mean, one of the tenets of being able to feast well is abundance.
Yeah.
That's one of the three things that is necessary for feasting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but I think this is what Christ is talking about when he said how it's easier for the wealthy, it's easier for a camel to enter through the eye of a needle than for the wealthy to inherit eternal life.
Right.
Something like that.
Basically.
That's basically what he said. And it didn't mean it's impossible. It's just very, very, very hard.
Right. I realized I skipped one. I'm going to go back.
Okay.
St. Thomas à Kempis.
We have no idea what order these are in, so
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
St. Thomas. You know what? I'll let you read. Haven't you been reading Imitation of Christ?
Is it St. Thomas à Kempis or
No.
just Thomas à
Thomas
Kempis?
à Kempis.
Yeah. I have read it many times.
Yeah, right here. I'll let you read that one.
Where is it?
Right here.
Just the quote right
Yeah,
there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. He says, "There is no man without fault, no man without burden, no man sufficient to himself, nor wise enough. Hence, we must support one another, console one another, mutually help, counsel, and advise, for the measure of every man's virtue is best revealed in time of adversity. Adversity that does not weaken a man, but rather shows what he is." Nice. That is the way suffering, it shows what kind of man you are.
Well, yeah.
It also makes you a better man, but it has a way of revealing the truth. I mean, it's just like with your you don't know your true friends
Mm-hmm.
until the bad times come along, and all of a
Right.
sudden, like, oh, yep, sure enough, you guys were the worst.
Right. You left me hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that adversity shows your weakness, right, and shows where you're lacking, and so
Yeah.
how you respond to adversity as a man, especially when no one's looking, right? You know, that's really shows what the character of a man is when you have to choose to do the right thing in the face of adversity when no one is watching, and it doesn't matter, like, no one will know the difference.
Yeah.
But you choose the good anyway.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. I had...
The Imitation of Christ is a fantastic book.
Yeah, that's one that I started a long time ago, and I have...
That's one of the books that, like, if I could only have, like, 5 books,
That's one of them.
I think it would be one of them.
I need to go back and try to read... Man, I don't... like. You know what? I'm just not going to for a while.
It's not a book you have to read. It's a lot like...
The Diary? of
No,
Faustina?
no, it's not like that. I mean, well, part of it is he does have part of the book where he is inventing a dialogue between. He's just making it up.
Mhm.
It's not like Christ came to him and said these words.
Oh, okay.
But they're very beautiful words. But also, it's sort of like, introduction to devout life in many ways, where he's just talking. Here's the topic. Here's the truth about. He has a way of really cutting to the quick about what's essential.
Okay.
For different topics, and like, oh, this is the real thing that I need to be focused on, and like this is the real value of whatever,
Okay.
It's very good.
Aquinas.
I know him.
Had to at least throw something out there on him. He says, even as it is better to enlighten than merely to shine, so it is better to give to others the fruits of one's contemplation than merely to contemplate.
Indeed.
Now, what do you, like, as a father, like, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means that I would need to teach my kids the truths and wisdom that I have learned.
Right.
I need to, like,
I mean, but you talk about that you can't give your children your relationship with Jesus.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to me, this quote is not about necessarily giving the relationship, but about giving the fruits, sharing the fruits that I've received from my relationship or fruits from my contemplation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, yeah, sometimes you have insight about how your family, organizing your family life or whatever. And so you try to share those. And, that's one thing I try to do is tell my kids, hey, I was praying and I had this thought, and if it was something that I found beautiful or moving, I try to tell my kids about it so that they know that, just Dad loves this way, or, like, this is how I think.
I think
I
that's
want
a
them
good
to know
idea.
me,
to give your
to share
insights of your prayer life.
Right. And even if it's something simple, just about, I was praying and it's really great. Just really felt Jesus' love for me today in my prayer life. He was just really reminded me of how much he loves me. And it was just really great. And that's it. But that, I think sharing things like that have profound impact on the way your kids think about you, especially if they know you pray, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, this is, kind of why. It's because of this relationship, and they're great. Jesus is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I often in prayer, like if somebody pops up in my mind in prayer to pray for them, a lot of times it's people I don't talk to very often, or I haven't spoken with in maybe years, and I'll pray for them. And then as I leave the Adoration Chapel, I try my best, if I can remember,
to tell them,
to actually tell them, like,
yeah,
hey, by the way,
I do that too.
Well.
I do that too. And some people I think might say, well, now you're like trying to get credit for praying for them,
no.
and I'm not. That's not what I'm trying to do. I want them to know that they're being prayed for.
Right.
And
that I care about them.
Because that's important.
Right.
That we all have the
Everybody
connection.
wants to be loved.
Right, exactly. And sometimes someone knowing, hey, they prayed for me, that can change their day, and it can reorient their mind. And
right. Yeah, and sometimes it's awkward, right? Because some people that I've done that to are not even Christian.
Yeah.
But again, I think that it's important to reach out to people to let them know, like, hey, I care about you.
Yeah.
I care about you enough to where I was like praying for you today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
By name. So I like to do that.
Very good.
Anything else? I had a couple more, but we've been going on a while, and
I think this was sufficient.
I did too.
No.
Cool.